Thank you. That picture, get off that picture. That was a definite internet find, guys. That was not what I gave you. But at least it was when I was in my 20s, so we'll keep it rolling a little longer. So I had a really big decision to make as to how to spell donuts. Okay, so show of hands. Who spells it just D-O-N-U-T? Okay, and who thinks this is the more proper way to say? Yeah, right? Like, respect the donut. Give it its full name. I'm going to finish eating it, but after I took one bite, I got the white crystalline sugar all over my mouth, and my mom was like, you probably should finish that after your talk. So I'll finish it after the talk. It's not that I'm like not eating it. I'm going to eat it, but anyway, so I'm going to talk about the genius on your plate. Genius is, by the way, a really intimidating topic to come to a group of people. And it's new to me, not because I haven't lived in San Diego a long time, meaning Creative Mornings is new, but because I hate mornings. And so they said, oh, can you come to this thing? And it starts, and you're supposed to be there at 8, which I definitely was not here at 8. And I actually have an 11-month-old baby and still could not get up early enough to 11-week-old baby. She's not 11 months, she's 11 weeks. Yeah, you're right. And but I have her, but I have her sleeping late enough that I don't have to get up early. Anyway, so the long story short is I don't like mornings, but I will actually come back because this is an incredible group of people, and I love seeing. I don't know. They asked me a question before, what's inspiring you right now, and I'm going to tell you honestly. You'll see in my talk some inspiring things about San Diego, but what's really inspired me is I've gone to the Women's March, the Science March, and the Charlottesville Candlelight Vigil in the last couple months. And the people on the street in San Diego really inspired me because this is not a city that's known for a huge activist culture. And the fact that so many people are out on the street has been incredibly, incredibly inspiring to me as a San Diego resident. So kudos to San Diego for being my inspiration. But what I'm actually here to talk to you about is some very simple stuff about food, but that a lot of people just really don't know. One thing that's pretty genius in our world today is that the farmers all around the world, both the big corporate farmers in the U.S. and smallholder farmers, in Latin America and Asia and Africa, produce enough calories to feed every single person 2,800 calories a day. And that's actually more than we're supposed to eat. Although if you started your day with a donut, you're probably gonna hit that. But the point is, like we actually produce enough food to feed every single person in the world. That's pretty genius. I mean, that's something that wasn't the case 50 years ago, and it's been through a lot of the hard work of our farmers, and of literally farmers all around the world, of aid organizations. So that's pretty genius, right? But unfortunately, there's a but. And what's not genius is number one, that there's still almost 800 million hungry people in the world. That's a lot. And there's almost 50 million people in America, including many children, who would be categorized as hungry, meaning they go to bed, they haven't eaten enough, they can't, focus, especially kids on school, people that are regularly visiting food banks. That's pretty criminal in a place like ours, in a country like ours. And it's certainly the case still in San Diego. I think there's around 1 in 7 children in San Diego are facing hunger on a regular basis. So pretty ridiculous. The other thing that's kind of ridiculous is that at the same time as there's still 800 million hungry people, there are 2.5 billion overweight or obese people in the world. And we think of this as really an American problem, but now it's actually a totally global problem. So here's an interesting data point. 7 years ago, in 2010, there were 1 billion hungry and 1 billion overweight. And today, just 7 years later, there's still 800 million hungry, but there are 2.5 billion overweight. And what's amazing is that those numbers have not only skyrocketed around the world in a very short time, but the American model for how much they've skyrocketed is right before your eyes. So in most of our lifetimes, since around the early to mid 80s, this map has changed dramatically. So dramatically that you see the color scale, okay, we've got the darker colors, we're coming up to 2008. By 2015, they actually needed an entirely new scale of colors because the map had gotten so bad in our country. Now, I don't believe that we're in a situation where people all of a sudden just don't know how to eat. and that people, individuals, are somehow the whole full scale of the problem. But we do have a systemic problem of both hunger and obesity that affect our entire world. And so when I was starting my career, which I'll talk a little bit about, I ended up coming to this very simple question. Clearly the question is not, can we feed the world? Like, old people ask that question. Can we feed? Yeah, we can feed the friggin' world. Look, we produce 2,800 calories. Oh, the limit was, the number that was hit, the F-bomb number that was hit was 10 before. So I'm trying to go over that. So of course we can fucking feed the world. We're providing 2,800 calories a day to people. We produce enough food. That's not the question. The question is, can we feed the world well? That's the question, right? How can we feed the world well? How can we make sure it's not just that people have enough calories, but that we can feed them with the proper calories, the proper nutrition, get them food when they need it, where they need it. That's good, healthy food and not just calories. And so I actually didn't start my career looking into this simple question. I started my career working on military issues, which is kind of indirectly how I ended up in San Diego. Of course, that's a Navy aircraft carrier. And I was in New York during 9/11 and started working on the issue of terrorism. And ended up finding, over the course of my career, the map of the places around the world that are terrorist hotbeds and where there's conflict, and the map of the places around the world where there's hunger, persistent hunger, long-term hunger. And amazingly, those two maps are almost exactly the same. And there's this great African proverb that a hungry man is an angry man. It's in a Bob Marley song, right? But you know, and by the way, a hungry woman is like a lot worse. But this simple me, yeah. Not a good situation. Hence the donut and coffee like on the stand during the talk, just in case. But the issue here is that people around the world who are hungry are going to be angry, and instead of sending this ship to, reduce conflict and fight battles, how about we just figure out like how we not make people hungry? I don't know, pretty simple. So I was, in short, hungry for answers on that first question. So how do we make sure we don't have violence that as an outcome of hunger? Okay. Well, as you travel, I eventually started working at the UN World Food Program, which is the UN's food aid agency. And as you travel with organizations like the UN, you start seeing that, like, look, everyone loves food. There is food everywhere. There's a lot of times kids don't have access to food. A lot of times there's systemic issues that mean there's no access to food. But there's pretty much food everywhere, and people love food everywhere. I mean, when you think of the American eater, and you think of how much we put food at the center of all of our celebrations, at all of our, every party we have, every family gathering, every religious gathering, food's always at the center. And enjoying food is an important part of life. So the fact is, like, this isn't something that people want to have good food with them no matter where they are. And, finding food as an important answer to this big problem of terrorism was my first kind of aha moment. It's first kind of like, that's really genius. If we just make sure people are fed, then we might not have to worry so much about conflict in the future. And I know that sounds really simplified, but honestly, it's often true. There was this Thomas Friedman wrote this book this line that said, 2 countries that both have McDonald's have never had a war. And it sounds really weird, but it's actually kind of true. And in our world today, obviously there's non-state actors and all kinds of nerdy stuff. But the point is, when you look at places around the world where people are generally well-fed, there tends not to be as much conflict. And so in my work at the UN World Food Program, I noticed that one easy way to get kids fed is give them free school meals. Hello, we do it in America. We don't do it even that well here, but it's a simple solution. So giving kids a free school lunch is a great way to say, hey, we're going into a place that maybe doesn't have a stable food supply. We can ensure that the children are at least fed. So Feed, the company I co-founded about 10 years ago, was an answer to that, was to say, hey, let's get kids a free school lunch. Let's give people an easy way to buy those free school lunches. So you bought a feed bag, each bag had a number on it, and each number signified how many school meals you were giving to a kid. This is our first bag. It launched 10 years ago. The idea was provide one child with 1 year of school meals by just purchasing this tote bag. And we were kind of on the early stage of the whole movement of social brands. Actually, Tom's Shoes and Feed were founded on opposite coasts in the exact same year. Thank God we did not do shoes, because I did not want to compete with that guy. But what's amazing is there was this zeitgeist in people our age around this idea of companies that help solve problems, that help make the world a better place. And so Feed, I'm proud to say, was one of those early companies, and I'm really proud to say Feed has provided 100 million school meals to kids around the world in just 10 years. So amazing solution to the first problem of like, let's get kids food, right? So here's me looking super pensive. It's a good picture, so I'm like, let's just use it. So this is in a village in rural Uganda, and earlier this morning I had gone to a market, like a bodega kind of market, to get food to go out for the day, because I was like, I'm gonna go out visit villages, and I just want to have my backpack full of food. And I went into this market, and in the market was mostly junk food, like literally soda, packaged white flour cookies, chips, fried everything, all packaged. And I started to really deeply think about this. I was probably deeply thinking about that right there at that moment. But when I really started thinking about it was on my flight home. And when you get back to the US, you go into like the airport snack shop, and it was like, oh my God, it's the same fucking food. It's junk food, soda, snacks, packaged. And this is the same food that I saw in this place that I thought of as being a hungry place. And it was my second sort of big aha moment that, like, wait a minute, we're exporting this crappy food system around the world. Our American habits are spilling around the world. Like, we have to get back to this table that we all eat around here at home before we start spewing the answers for people that live far, far away. It came to me that there's sort of a hubris to the idea that the American savior is going to go feed the world, when in reality we have such a fucked up food system at home that, like, how dare we tell people how they should eat when they would come to our country and say, well, who the hell are you to talk? It's not like you guys have figured this out, right? Like, you haven't first of all, you haven't fed all your hungry children in your own country, and by the way, you have a problem with this other health issue that's now coming to us, thank you very much, because of your choices. So this is like, sounds crazy, but we're extrapolating, but we're going from big, massive global food issues, hunger and obesity, back to our tables here at home. And what made me this third kind of aha moment that was after the flight and after that cool picture was actually much more simple. Instead of thinking about how we give people food, what if we think about how we live ourselves? And it's kind of a genius idea that how we live ourselves might be more impactful than how we give. Americans are a very generous people, but we still spend way more money on our own consumer habits and our own consumer products than we do on our charity, right? So we have much more power in our own consumer behavior than we do in how much we give at the end of the year. And maybe this bag is actually the more important bag to figuring out how we feed the world well. Maybe our own of course, we're in California. Okay, fine, you bring your own bag. I get it. This is a metaphor. Sorry. How many times have I paid for the friggin' bags? Because I forget it. But okay, you're right. Okay, but the point is, it's a metaphor, if we weren't in California, for how this bag, the bag that we spend in the grocery store, is actually more impactful. Now, what's really cool is, like, I moved to Southern California, where you can spend, if you bring your own reusable bag, you can actually buy into the most incredible healthy food system, right? Like, of course, we're all not gonna be able to buy houses because we eat avocado toast. You all have heard that. But San Diego is the #1 producer of avocado. We have more small farms in San Diego County than any county in America. We literally have the ground set to having one of the healthiest food systems in the world, right? We could be the leader. We could be the answer to a lot of these problems here in San Diego. But unfortunately, we still have the not genius food environment that the rest of the country has. Like, these are scenes that you'll see around San Diego. These are, the food environment that we live in, that you walk down the street and it's too they pump the smell out, guys. Subway does that, you know that. They pump that bread smell. They don't bake that bread. And it was made in a lab in New Jersey. I'm serious. But it smells good, and it makes you want to go in there. And you drive past these places. This is not genius. What is genius is that as San Diego is becoming a better and better city, part of the story behind that is a better food culture. And when you look at data, survey data, people want to live in cities where there's a great food culture, where there's local markets, there's cool local restaurants. People want that. People want to live in North Park because there's communal coffee. People want to live in, no, seriously, like, that's the vibe people want. People want farmers markets, but actually farmers markets are so genius because they have this positive chain reaction where money spent at the farmers market is so much more impactful than just money spent at the grocery store. Now, data that like this, which is the growth of farmers markets nationally, San Diego's crushing that data. In the last 7 years, we've doubled farmers markets. I mean, we are crushing the rest of the country in terms of building a positive food environment. And it's not only good for us as healthy people, it's not only good for modeling this healthy food system, it's good for it's good for our city, it's good for our home values, it's good for our businesses, it's good for the creative community because it's making more people want to buy into the creative community because they have more available businesses that can start, that can hire people, right? Okay. Things like the Liberty Public Market, which is what I live in Liberty Station because of Liberty Public Market, right? Literally, I live there because I'm a food person, and so I walk there every day and eat. But like literally, this is helping to make San Diego a more desirable place for businesses, and it's helping to make people in San Diego healthier. Little Italy Farmers Market, I mean, Little Italy is one of the coolest neighborhoods in the city because partially of the farmers market. And when you look at the dollars and cents, the dollar that's spent at a large chain gives 15 cents back to that local area, and that same dollar that's spent in the local food economy at a local farm gives 30 to 40 cents back to that area. So like, we're talking about the power of that bag that we spend at the grocery store, that we spend on food, first of all, reverberating right back into our own hometowns. First of all, making our cities better, making our lives better, making our businesses better. But great data point, right? These are people. Little Italy Farmers Market. Are you just going to the farmers market? No, you're probably getting coffee. You're getting coffee at the farmers market, duh. But you're probably going to a restaurant. You're walking around. You're on foot. Also in San Diego, speaking of coffee, we have the incredible benefit of being on the map for our coffee culture. Coffee culture isn't just about, oh, I really like good tasting coffee, which the coffee this morning was delicious, but it's also about, I want that feeling of going into a local place and knowing people. I want that feeling of communing back around the table. I want that feeling of, it's not just that I drive through a place and then leave and take my food with me in my car. I want to sit and linger. And being America's beer capital, amazingly, is actually good for our food system because now there's beer and food pairings. The brewery industry is not just bringing people to drink beer, which is great. It's also bringing people around the table again in a way that we should be enjoying these foods that people are spending their hard-earned time producing. We should be focused on these small brewers who are saying, look, I don't want to do what the big corporate guys are doing. I want to do it my own way. I want to make something special. I want to craft it. That's something that I know it sounds like I'm going crazy off the deep end talking about breweries and talking about hunger in Africa, but the fact that we have this incredible culture of local food, we have this incredible culture of local farms, we have this incredible culture of walking, once we get into a neighborhood, that's another issue. We'll have a transportation talk next time. But the fact that we're starting to do that in places like San Diego is trying to fight against the not genius world that many of us inherited. And the not genius world that many of us inherited, if you go back to the data from 1985, where that obesity map starts, is how we got to a state where there's 2.5 billion people in the world who are currently overweight or obese, and there are still hungry people. This not genius world of taking an escalator to a gym that you drove to, that's the not genius world that we inherited, is what we're fighting against, even with things like local coffee shops and local breweries. We are fighting this in our own community, and we are trying to fight, this global fight in our own community with building a better food infrastructure. We are trying to create the future of a city and a future of where people live, where you can have really good, healthy food that you can potentially walk to. That is what we are trying to do in San Diego. And to me, that is the most palatable and simple and genius answer to a lot of these big global issues. This Little Italy Farmers Market is kind of the answer to a lot of these big global issues. I know that sounds crazy, but that this bag, the way we buy our food, actually has the power to create a better world, because if we model it here and we show the way we remake our table, we remake our plates, we remake our society around this idea of food, the most important thing in our lives, our plates have the power to reshift the way the global food system is built. Because if we build it better here, where we are modeling for the rest of the world will eventually start to realize we are building a better system, and honestly, they will follow. That's what we've shown has happened with our crappy, not genius food system, and I think that is very clearly what will happen with our new food system. One tangible example is that I've been to a farmer's market in Bogota, Colombia, which was modeled after farmers markets in California. And by the way, there's still obviously a persistent hunger problem in countries like Colombia too, where if local farmers have access to city urban markets, which is obviously the same thing we're doing here, those farmers are going to get better paid. They're going to have more money to feed their own kids. That's the positive net effect of building local food systems around the world, and we're modeling it here. So the real genius here is that the local American food system is already great. We don't need to make it great again. It's already great, guys. And that here in San Diego, we have an unbelievable model for a local food economy that can continue to grow, continue to get better. The creative community can be a huge help in building this. We want this. We want it. We all go to the farmers market. We want to eat this way. We all go to the local coffee shops and local breweries. We're building a better food economy to model to the world how to feed the world well. And if we do it right in places like San Diego that are a car culture, that do need to revert back to more walkable urban environments, if we do it right here, we really help actually in a better, more sustainable way, in a non-judgmental and non-white savior way. We actually do a better job of helping that rural Ugandan village by modeling a better food system here at home. And I believe that the answer, the simple, genius answer, is to have a better food system in your own homes, on your own plates. And the best part of this whole story is that the revolution is delicious. The local food is better tasting. We love local coffee. We love local beer. We love all these. We love mush. Mush, by the way, savior for my post-pregnancy life. Thank you, mush. But the point is, by eating these foods, by choosing these foods, by spending our dollars out of our own pockets on these types of food systems, we're modeling a better world. We're modeling a better food system. This is how we're going to feed the world well. And of course, the dirty little positive secret is that the revolution is delicious. Thank you.